a genuine debate between entrepreneurs and investors. Something you really don't see on a daily basis, because most of the time the relationship, like there is a lot of sugar coating when it comes to investors and entrepreneurs conversations. In this session, we will learn on what do really VCs are looking for. Is it commercial and technical due diligence? And what the startups actually are looking for. You know, like, let's have this genuine conversation that we rarely find, because in every setting, the relationship between entrepreneurs and investors, have never been really genuine. So I would like to invite to this debate our honorable speakers, Mr. Walid Faza, Mr. Nadim Khater, and Mr. Nidal. And along with two startups who will kind of represent the voice of startups and entrepreneurs to try to challenge the investor as much as they can. تفضلوا. Please عارفوا عن حالكم وعن الستارت اب. يعني قطعوا اسمعوا.
مرحبا جميعا سامعيني منيح؟
Okay, test.
So anybody doesn't speak Arabic here? Oh, excellent. Oh, you can leave now if you want. So well, first of all, thank you for coming. This session is not 20 minutes, it's a bit longer, sorry about that. So what we're doing today is we have one of the biggest names in the VC industry in the region, Walid Faza.
Thank you.
If you don't know him, he was Wonder Capital before, now MSA Capital. Anyway, big deal in the VC investment industry. We have Nadim, who is a rising star with anything related to technical due diligence. And we have two startups, Ahmed and Ahmed. And the idea today is I want to get the startups and the VCs to talk to each other and manage expectations of each other, really. So the VCs will tell the startups what they're looking for when they look for an investment. And then the startups may have feedback about how they perceive the relationship, the interaction, and. So let me start by Walid, if that's okay. Walid, when you do your commercial due diligence, when you see a startup you like what you see, and you decide to go to the next stage where you want to do your due diligence and decide to take the next step or not. What are the main things you look for as a VC, and what do you think other VCs look for as well?
Okay, thank you everyone for showing up, and thanks Nidal for having me. Let's take a step back so we can put everything in context. VCs need to get money from investors. Believe it or not, we don't have an endless pit of cash that we just pick up and we give to whoever we want. We actually have to go and fundraise from investors. So it's very similar, the life that I have to lead as fundraising as the startups do. So they need to please me or fit into my agenda. I need to fit into somebody else's agenda, just so that you know that there is a greater food chain that actually goes down. And it's very important to remember that, because I need to fulfill the needs of my investor. So the investor actually gives me money because I need to invest and return that money to my investor, right? So I don't print money as an investor, right, as a VC. It's very important because sometimes startups, and I don't blame them, think that we have the ability to print money and that we can actually invest in whatever we want. We have to invest in things that give us the return and come back. So I actually had to go to my investors and say, I have a thesis. My thesis is I invest in fintech only, or I invest in prop tech, or I invest in green tech. And based on that, they gave me money for me to invest, hi Tambi, and then be able to give them back money. So I just want to make sure that the food chain is there. Commercial due diligence means every VC has a mandate to spend money and invest money in the specific sectors or the mandate that they did. So you have anything from incubators, seed funds, Series A funds, growth stage funds, private equity funds, pre-IPO funds. These are all different funding vehicles that are mandated to invest money at the specific stage that they're doing. So that's stage. And then you have sectors focus. So you have funds that say, I'm only going to invest in green tech, or I'm only going to invest in med tech or hardware, So I was asked to give a very broad understanding of what
That's perfect.
VCs look for and where they fit, and then we can narrow it down. So, for example, when I started my career with MENA Venture Investments, it was small checks, so 150K, 250K, and it was really about anything that had to do with technology. So it could be somebody who wants to give music lessons online. That fit the mandate. It was great. It was somebody who loved art but wanted to put it online, and we invested in that. As we moved forward and I went to Wamda Capital, we were doing growth stage funds, so up to $5 million. So as you notice, the tickets change from 150K, now it's up to $5 million. So we're looking for companies that are actually maybe generating revenue, have a total addressable market that we can actually see, and where they're going to scale. You'll hear scalability is a big word for venture capitalists, because the way we make our money and pay back our investors is when these companies scale and are large enough. So إذا محل فلافل وعنده 3-4 محلات, it's not going to scale to 700. That's not going to be VC backed. So scale is important for us. We need to be able to go into many, many different countries and grow it so we can raise the value, sell it, bring back our money. So scalability has a lot to do with that. As we move forward in MSA Capital, which is a Chinese venture capital fund that is investing in emerging markets, we look specifically at 3 sectors: fintech, consumer, and logistics. So anybody who's looking for green tech, don't come to me. I won't be able to invest in you, even though I like you and I can give you advice and mentor you. But at the end of the day, I need to invest in what my thesis is and what my mandate is. Going back to commercial due diligence means that I'm going to look at companies, a fintech company that comes to me, I'm going to start looking at it. What's the total addressable market? Do you have a monetization? Who are your top executives? What do you want to do? And I'm going to benchmark you on the expertise that I have in fintech. Which other companies are working in the space? Have I invested in Latin America or Southeast Asia or in Africa in a similar company? How much is your valuation? Does it make sense with the multiples that I've looked for? If the words that I'm saying are Chinese to you, please raise your hand so I know that I should tone it down a little bit. But I'm trying to get to the point where it's specific to each fund and it's specific to each sector that we look into.
But generally, regardless of the stage or the sector, you're looking for a company that will return the investment with X multiples, right?
And if I may ask the audience to put yourself in my position. Say you had $1 million. What would you look for to maximize the return of your money? You need a trustworthy founder or somebody who you trust. Because at the end of the day, it's back down to human relations. I'm not going to give somebody money that I don't trust. So we look at the founder and we look at their track record, we look at their trustiness. 2, you need to make sure that they have a viable business. How do you do that? You look at their business, you look at their financials, you look at their returns, you look at their technology, which Nadim will talk about now, and you make sure that it's functional. So you hear a lot of, well, we want the passion of the founder. We believe that the passion of the founder is the most important thing. Akid, it's important. But if the passion of the founder doesn't have a business, they could be as passionate as possible, but I can't make money off of them. So I'm not going to return my investors.
Thank you, Walid. Is this clear, really? If anybody needs any more clarification, we can...
I'd love to make this a little bit more interactive.
Yes. Yeah, I will... if I may just finish with Nadim.
Yeah. Sure.
Or Nadim is not important.
No, he's...
I just met the guy 2 days ago. So Nadim has a business and they are specialized in doing due diligence, but not on the commercial side, although it's related, on the technical side. So if you're a tech company and you have code, you have a system, software, whatever the case might be, they can do an assessment and I'll let him speak to it.
Yeah,
Which is important, by the way, for funds like Walid's, because when they want to invest, Walid may not be a coder, so he would need expert advice to tell him, listen, the company you're investing in, the software is great, blah, blah, blah. So I'll let Nadim speak to this.
Sure. First of all, we believe technical due diligence is not getting the attention it deserves. And we started this company. I'm not a VC, but I work on VC mandates to look at startups and to check if their tech is in order. And our approach is more an investor-centric tech DD. So we look at the tech from the optic to see if that tech will yield ROI. However, we're still trying to evangelize this technical due diligence process, But there is appetite, and more people are understanding the value of doing a technical due diligence. Commercial due diligence is amazing, product market fit, the team, that's very important. But I see sometimes more attention given to legal due diligence and legal and financial due diligence on the expense of technical due diligence, where technical takes the back seat. However, if we are all in tech, and tech investments is the tech that gives the ROI and not usually the accounting or the legal. So what do we look for in a technical due diligence? We have our own framework, we have our own methodology, mainly is 12 areas. These 12 areas are IP, technical IP, and for each one of these areas, we have a spectrum. So for IP, we have like from generic to unique, unique being amazing because unique IP usually yields, to documentation being incomplete, to being exhaustive, the tech stack, is it adequate, inadequate, security aspects of the company. The team is very important, so we have 2 areas that look at the team.
You mean skills of the team?
Yeah, we look at the team know-how, which is the current state, and we look at the team potential. Because when you go into scale, you got to make sure this team can work with a bigger IT organization, a bigger tech, different geographies, different platforms. We also look at integrations. Are these third-party integrations warranted or unwarranted? The cost is also very important, and the architecture, and also the stability of the platform, high availability. Is this platform going up or going down? What is the theory of nines, the high availability? So this is what we do. In addition, we believe every tech DD is different based on the mandate where we sit with the investors. Investors sometimes have some concern areas where they want highlights. And something that we're doing more for investors is we're looking at the valuation metrics, which means nowadays the period of spray and pray is over. So you really have to make sure and not take the founders' word for granted. We're not here to give a hard time to the founders. We just want to make sure that the metrics provided to the investors are valid. So the active users, the traffic, these metrics that go directly in the valuation, we ping directly into that database, and we make sure that these are true. And believe me, we've seen cases where they're not true. So you ping the database, you see test sample,
so similar to the
friends and
financials.
family.
I have 10,000 in cash, and then I discover I have 1,000.
Yeah. So I mean, this is paramount.
So they can
now,
discover if your code sucks, basically.
Yeah.
So let me just add to this, if that's okay. So this is the commercial side of things, and they need to get confirmation, investors that is, that the technology you have your solution based on is solid. And when they invest, there aren't going to be holes elsewhere that will drown or sink some of that money out. So that's the investor's point of view, and it's valid. The question is we have Ahmed and Ahmed. Maybe Ahmed, we start with you.
Okay.
You've dealt with him.
like Ahmed A, Ahmed S. Or
Ahmed Saif.
أحمد المصري يعني Alfredo you can call me خلاص.
No, that's the name of the business. By the way, Alfredo is a fintech company, Walid. No, he's not. What was your, you've heard this.
Okay.
If you also know of experiences of other startups that may have,
Okay,
please
عظيم.
share with us.
Okay, thank you. أنا
And be
اسمي
nice.
أحمد سيف, founder of Alfredo Box. احنا عم نحل مشكلة الدفع الهائل عم بيدفعوه الأهالي على أبنائهم بالمرحلة المدرسية من supplements, من كتب, من past papers وكل المرحلة هاي especially الانترناشونال سيستم اللي هم الاي جي, السات, الاي بي. عمرنا 3 سنين. احنا من بورتفوليو اويسيس 500. عندنا سيلز ب $400,000 من السوق الاردني.
Okay,
كلها
enough for
audited.
that's
Yeah.
good. The elevator pitch.
عشان يعرفوا البوزيشننج. باي ذا واي وي اوبننج انذر فند ريز ب 1/1/23. يعني
للي قاعدين هون
مستحيل اضيع الفرصه وما احكي لهم يعني.
عنده تراكشن 400,000 بعدين بقول لكم.
يا سو هلا هي العلاقه تشاركيه, هي مش حرب بين الفاوندرز والفي سيز, فهذه هيك نقطه الامان اللي بدنا نبلش فيها الحديث. وراح ابلش بمساوئ الفاوندرز برضو عشان يعني نعطيكم الضوء الاخضر للود. الفاوندرز 90% منهم انا بحكيهم, وانا من الفاوندرز ما بينحكى معهم. ايجو هائل, بكون عامل شغله وايت ليبل, بيجي زي كانه ستيف جوب بعد على الميتينج, ما بينحكى معاه, بيحكي له عدل كذا, بيحكي لك لا انا شغلي صح. تعطيه نصيحه بيحكي لك اوريدي عارفينها, طب ليه جاي عندي؟ فهذه يعني هيوج ميستيكس بيعملوها الفاوندرز, ولازم يشتغلوا عليها, على الكوميونيكيشن سكيلز, يكون كوتشبل, يعني إذا مو جاي تسمع ما تيجي، إذا مو جاي تتعلم ما تيجي. هلا ننتقل إلى الجانب الآخر. اليوم لما مثلا بالكرة القدم مين بروح يشوف المواهب الصغيرة؟ بروح زين الدين زيدان، بروح روماريو على الحواري، بتطلع مين في صغار عم بيلعبوا، مين هيك طريقة رميه للكرة منيحة. هذا بخودنا لإشي ورجاء يعني كتير مهم. الفي سيز على الأقل لما تستقبل الستارت ابس اللي عاملين ريزد اوريدي، يعني انه to hire someone mid or senior to open this conversation. It's يعني كتير احسن ما انه يكون انترن صراحه. هذه للاسف كثير مع كامل الاحترام للانترنز، بس صراحه ما بتعطي الريزلتس كثير. انا بحترم الفي سيز اللي بيجي حدا سينيور او مرات الفاوندر، يعني وفي كثير منهم هون قاعدين هم اللي بيبدوا، يعني برضه في بوزيتيف سايد. بس للاسف في كثير بتقتصر المحادثه على ناس انترن مع كامل الاحترام لهم، بكون بالجامعه او متخرج جديد. يعني احنا شوف الفاوندرز غالبيتهم بالاردن، يعني انا اشتغلت 10 سنين برايفت سيكتور، بال10 سنين هاي كان دائما عندي شغل مساء، فساعتي البيوغرافيه يعني 40 سنه، يعني عمري ببين 40 سنه. فصعب شوي انه يكون انترن هو اللي يقرر كل شيء، لانه بدك حدا
جونيور ما عنده الخبره يعطيك فيدباك.
لسه مو داخل هو لا بالكوربريت ليفل ولا داخل بالستارت اب ولا داخل بالحياه كلها، ويعطيك النو والبلوك من اولها. وقتها انت كفاوندر اذا بدك تلتف من طريقه ثانيه، اذا هو هذا بده ينتقم راح يعكس لك الطريق. كيف البي تو بي سيلز، اذا بلشت مع السيلز مع المانجر ما بتقدر تروح للجنرال مانجر. فاظني وورث ات سبيشالي للليفل اللي عاملين ريز اوريدي، انه اللي يستقبل كونفرزيشن حدا من الميد تيم احسن وراح تعطي ريزلت احسن. الشغله الثانيه الفيدباك، اخذتها من تامبي انا هلا، يعني ذكرني فيها كنا عم نحكي. احنا عم نقضي تقريبا يعني افريج 3-4 ايام اذا بدك تعبي ابلكيشن محترم، واحنا وي ويلينج ان تو اكسباند، يعني بالاخير العلاقه وين وين. يعني كثير حلو انه يكون بهالايميل غير الريجريت وغير الانفورشنتلي، يكون بس 3-4 كلمات انه عن جد ايش سبب الرفض.
قصدك لما يردوا عليك
100% وي هابي، يعني عادي طبيعي ننرفض، يعني في 1000 حدا بيقدم وفي بس واحد بده يفوز او 2، يعني وي اكسبكت ان ننرفض. بس كثير بوزيتيف. احنا بلشنا يوز بوك، كنا يوز بوك، بعدين ادركنا انه لو بعنا بمليون ستيل بدنا تو بي سكيلت مور اند مور، بدنا نضيف اشياء ضفناها لما سمعنا. هلا صرنا ليدر بالديجيتال سمريز، صرنا ليدر بالموك اكزامز، لان سمعنا فيدباك. للاسف الايميلات كلها بتيجي 90% منها كوبي بيست انفورشنتلي. فحلو انه يكون في، اذا عن جد بده يعمل امباكت للايكو سيستم، يعني we need this feedback. بدنا هاي الفيدباك مهمة جدا.
So if we can go back to Walid and Nadim, and by the way, any VC in the crowd as well. إذا عندكم feedback.
Thank you. I think good points. رح أقول لكم وجهة نظري بالنسبة للستركشر تاع الفي سي. هلا زي ما حكينا VC has a sector specific, probably a stage specific as well. الحق مش على الانترن او اللي متخرج جديد، الحق على الفي سي اللي وراه اللي ما علمه او ما قال له انه انت اذا عندك 1 2 3 الكرايتيريا تاعك بتيجي بتحكي معي او بتحوله على فلان. لا نحن بدنا نعلم صغار، بدنا نعلم الناس، وبدنا يكون عندنا ناس تيجي يا انترن او لا، وبدنا ندرب بالموضوع. كثير مهم انه الفي سي يكون عنده قوائم او structures that is able to allow and facilitate that communication. وكثير مهم من الفاوندر اذا لقوا حاله مظلوم بهذا الشيء انه يلتجئ لحدا ثاني بالفند ويقول انه يا جماعه يمكن الشخص الفلاني ما فهم علي او ما قدر اللي انا حكيت له اياها. these lines of communications are very important, and you can do that through many ways that you can find people. It's impossible for me, just from a logistics point of view and a time cost basis, all of my partners or senior managers are looking at all of the pipeline because we have thousands of pipelines. That's number one. Feedback is so important. It's so important for the ecosystem. It's so important for everybody to understand what you're thinking. And even if you're right or wrong, nobody's judging you, but you need to actually give to be able to receive. So it's important for us to give feedback. But it's a very sensitive place. تصور يعني أنا شغلي 99% من الناس بدي أقول لهم لا. تصور كل واحد بيجي بيحكي معي بيقول لي تطلع انا بقدر اسوي وانا بسوي I'm gonna be the next $1 billion company وانت تقول له لا. ف that copy paste email is something that we have to do just because كم من الناس اللي بيجونا we have to respond to them. It would be nice for you to have some kind of relationship with somebody تحكي معاه تليفون تقول له بليز فهمني شو اللي عم بيصير. صعب كتير انا ابعت ايميلات ويعني اول شيء ما بدك يوصلك ايميل من VC يشرشحك يقول لك انت ما بتفهم وانت غلط وانت هذا ما بتتقبلها. So I'm just saying I'm taking extremes so that we can be politically correct and really understand the dynamics of the relationship that goes back and forth. So, you know, maybe it's too watered down from VCs. I agree with you. أو الزلمة مش فاهم يعني. You cannot blame him for that. But it's nice to have some kind of personal relationships. I have some of my best friends that I've said no to and they keep coming back to me. So it's not a personal thing at the end of the day يعني. But they can call me up or any pipeline company can say, you know, I'd really like your advice on this. What can we do better? Come on, it's the way that you position things to learn it. I agree that these are problems. I'm just trying to give light on the other side, you know, on the evil VC side, on what we see and how things can work out a little bit more. But it's an ongoing relationship.
إذا بدي هيك عشان نبني إشي ممكن يكون findings ممكن تروحوا ب 60% copy paste email للناس اللي لسه عن جد early وتلاقوا اللي كانوا قراب to go with the feedback because you know what
وليد هذا الفيدباك I hear all the time. بس نشوف الايميل اللي بعثوا لي ولا له دخل وبيكون في منه
يعني
أنا I get what you're saying. I mean you get 100 applications بالشهر بس بدك تقعد 99 تقعد تحط targeted focused feedback on why you couldn't invest and why you think it's not scalable. ما راح تخلص.
وفي مشكله كمان نضال لسه مرات بكون كوبي بيست انا سوري في 90% بوزيتيف احنا لا بنحكي بس عشان نلاقي فايندينجز ما عم
جاهل انفسترز اكثر
وي بوزيتيف يعني في ايميلات كوبي بيست بتكون فيها المشكله يعني انا مره بعت لجماعه $400,000 بالاردن بسنتين لستارت اب باعتين لي تراكشن في مشكله. طب يعني ايش اعمل اكثر من هيك في كوربريت ما عم بتبيع ب 400,000.
احمد صار شيء معك هيك قريب؟
باي ذا بس اعرف عن حالي سريعا. احمد المصري founder and CEO of Progressive Generation Studios which one of the largest Arabic cartoon libraries in the MENA region original. احنا من اكثر الاندستريز اللي صعب تستثمر فيها وخاصه انا بحكي من قبل 3 سنوات. يعني كان في ستيريوتايب معين تجاه الكونتنت اندستري عموما انه ما بنستثمر بكونتنت وهذا الاشي صراحه انا بدي ابلش شويه ابكر من هيك. احنا بلشنا مع ويز 500 بال 2010 نهايه 2010 تخيل وقت طويل كتير والشركه الحمد لله لحد اليوم ما شاء الله شركه هي ضخمه وعندها الحمد لله مبيعات كتير كبيره. We raised 1.8 million لحد اليوم. We are seeking series A.
You're raising هلا though صح؟
We are raising now 8 million. أقول لك شغلة صراحة. هلا أنا شوي بدي أجي تجاه أحمد لأنه في كتير بعض الغلوطات في الموضوع. هلا إحنا ما ننسى نحن أسواق ناشئة في كل الاندستري هاي تبعت الستارت اب كومبانيز عموما هي جديدة. فإحنا ما بنحكي قاعدين عن نظام فقط الخلل في الانجل انفسترز او في الستارت اب كومبانيز او في الفي سيز، لا السيستم كلياته في مشكله. يعني لما اجي مثلا انا بدي اوظف موظف او ادرب انترن معين انا مضطر ادفع له برضه راتب. هلا الحكومه من جديد صارت تعمل برامج تدعم هاي الرواتب ولكنها برضه كمان فيها بيروقراطيه عاليه صعب انه اي شركه ستارت اب تفوت فيها. ولكن هلا بنحكي هون انت از ستارت اب كومباني انت بتستثمر قاعد جزء من عمرك. يعني انت بيكون مثلا عندك خبره كافيه مثلا راتبك ممكن برا يكون اضعاف مضاعفه لو انت ممكن بدك تشتغل في شركه إلك بتضحي بكل هذا ممكن في احلام شخصيه تضحي فيها مقابل انك انت تبني اندستري معينه او تبني
مع الفي سيز الحكي.
فبدي احكي لك فالوصول للفي سيز مش هو هيك كبسه زر، لا في مراحل بالاستثمار. مراحل الاستثمار هذه لازم يمر فيها الواحد بشكل قوي ويعمل تضحيات معينه ويتعلم از ستارت اب از انتربرنور. غلط انه الواحد يفوت مثلا على في سي هو مش عارف كيف يعمل فاينانشال ستيتمنت مثلا او ريفينيو موديل معين او بروجكشنز.
احكي لصالحك وضدي.
بالضبط بالضبط 100%
أعطيني.
ما هي فولكن بحكي لك انه كل هذا الحكي انه صح مزبوط في ستارت ابس كثير داخلين على الموضوع بدون ما يعرفوا هاي التفاصيل
أوكي.
او ما مثلا ما بيعرف يجاوب على سؤال معين في الفاينانشال ستيتمنت تبعته. هذا جانب في ناس كثير مش عارفين اصلا كيف بيسجلوا الشركات تبعتهم، كيف يتهربوا مش يتهربوا من الضريبه كيف سوري كيف انهم هم فعليا انهم يعني فيش فيها غير يتهرب من الضريبه بطريقه معينه.
هاي الاشياء واضحه. الكويشن از انت كشخص عارف الاشياء هاي
بالضبط.
وبدك تحكي مع المستثمرين او من تجربتك بالحكي مع المستثمرين، حسيت في اشياء لو اقول لك كيف ممكن تحسنها، في اشياء توقع تحت اللسته؟
هلا انا بحكي من ناحيه
Sorry, we're speaking
الانفسترز
Arabic, my
اكيد
apologies.
من ناحيه الانفسترز في شغلات خاطئه مثلا بحكموا على ستارت اب من خلال ستارت اب تجربه اخرى ما بتطلعوا كثير على موضوع مثلا والله انه كل فاوندر او كل بيئه معينه من الانفستمنت في لها معطيات معينه او اندستري معينه. انا مثلا از انفستر ما بفهم بالديجيتال كونتنت برودكشن اوكي،
فبقرر انه شركتك مش
بقرر انه انا هذا. طب انت تعال افهم كيف مثلا والله احنا بنجيب فلوس، كيف انه انا قاعد ببني لايبراري ضخمه، ببيع كوبي رايتس بالاخر، ببيع لايسنس وبضل عندي اسيتس بالمليونز، فهذه او ببني برودكت معين. وفي حالات شفنا كثير من شركات لم تعطى اهتمام من ناحيه المستثمرين وكان هذا بصالحها واحنا منهم بقى صراحه. كان انقطعنا 5 سنوات عن الاستثمارات، هذا خلانا نعمل بروف اوف كونسبت فعليا ونبيع لتي في ستيشنز ونجيب ريفينيو ونطور الشركه من الريفينيو. ولكن ما في بديل للاستراتيجيك بارتنر. الفي سي برضه كمان لازم يكون له دور مهم في الشركه، انه يضيفه، يفتح له ماركتس جديده او يكون له ريليشن شيبس معينه تقوي البزنس هذا مش بس كاش.
sector you're in which is the digital content creation, you did not find enough startups that are either VCs that are interested
exactly
or that they had bad experiences.
نضال احنا من 8 سنوات سكرت 46 استوديو انيميشن في منطقه المينا ريجن، 46 استوديو، وهذا اثر على الاندستري
And
كلياتها.
how is that the VC's fault?
بلوك كامل كان بلوك كامل على الكونتنت. بقول لك يمكن وليد برضه نفس الشيء بيحكي هذا
لا وليد انا عارف بده يجاوب، خليه يجاوبك
مباشره. هيقول لك احنا ما بنستثمر مثلا بالكونتنت. بالمقابل انا بقول لك من 3 سنوات وجاي وخاصه من الخليج صار في نهضه تجاه الكونتنت، لانه السوشيال ميديا صار بدها كونتنت. فهمت علي؟ مختلف.
وليد do you want to jump in?
I love what you said.
Yeah.
And I think it's very true. And I want to tell the audience something. Timing. Timing is of the essence when you do investment. When you're doing risk and return, time is a huge, major factor. So أقول لك أنا my experience. نحن استثمرنا بشيء اسمه أرانيم games, wizard games. استثمرنا مع فادي ووامدا وام في اي، استثمرنا باكثر من 5 أو 6 شركات كله بالكونتنت انيميشن وكيرل ستون، وحتى من قبلها we invested in all of these companies.
كمان صح؟
خرابيش so I invested hugely into the content space and into the great gaming space. Timing was not on our side. All of these companies pretty much shut down or were not able to monetize in a big way. Although we were seeing things in the States and in other jurisdictions doing super well, and we wanted to implement that in the Arab world, but timing was not right. Does that make sense for me as a VC to see any gaming company or any content company and say, no, I'm not going to do it? I did that mistake for a while. I'm guilty, right? Because timing was not right. So if I just invested in a gaming company or a content company and 2 years later it shut down and then I'm getting a pipeline of gaming and content companies, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I've been burnt. It's not working for me. Maybe later. What happened later? رجعنا استثمرنا بطماطم. Okay? So we understood it. بس انت حكيت اشي يعني I think very يعني جوهرية and it's very philosophical and I'd like you to share that with you. هو قال لما الفي سي قال له لا وكان في this period of time انه كل الفي سيز قالوا له لا، قلت لي 5 سنين. What does that do to an entrepreneur?
Exactly what happens.
It creates a super efficient entrepreneur that is going after monetization and fine-tuning his business model into a way that helps him survive 5 years and then get funding. Unfortunately, this is the reality of what we do. When we say no, you get smarter, you get more effective, you get more efficient, and you prove us wrong and you move it forward, and then that unlocks funding. But that's the cycle of evolution.
And can I say something?
Yeah.
VCs love being wrong and love to invest in you when they know they're wrong because they see the opportunity. They have no problem with that. From my experience, Walid, is that
No,
fair?
100% right. I want to be wrong most of the time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that means I have more opportunity to invest.
Yes.
So absolutely, but عامل الوقت وعامل لما واحد يقول لك لا وبعدين انت ترجع وتظبط وتغير انه لا انا بدي افرجيه للانفستر هذا لما قال لي لا انه انا رح اظبط ورح اسوي بالعكس this is exactly the kind of passion and stuff that we need in the ecosystem. So it's counterintuitive, but it does work both ways.
معلش شوي بس بدي اضيف نقطة مهمة كتير بس يمكن موضوع التحدي هذا انه بين الفي سي والانتربرنور يمكن ممكن يكون موجود، بس بحكي لك شغلة أساسية إنه حياة الستارت اب فعلياً خاصة في المينا ريجن يعني جداً صعبة جداً صعبة فعلياً. لما الواحد أنت فعلياً بتكون مسؤول از سي او، أنت بتروح مثلاً من البيت از كموظف بتروح مرتاح عارف راتبك مثلاً جاي آخر الشهر مرتاح. أنت بتكون مثلاً مسؤول أنت لما تروح كستارت أو كسي او إنك توفر 25 30 ألف آخر الشهر. هدول منين بدك تجيبهم؟ إذا كان برضو ما عندك سبورت من انفستر معين اتس كتير إشي صعب، حياة صعبة.
هلا اسمح لي أنا to jump in شوي. So that's life.
أكيد
السوق حقير in a good way. كيف؟ Demand and supply just control everything, right?
صح.
And it's just a reality. And because you're going through this, which I'm sure Walid and other VCs appreciate, it doesn't mean that they have to go to their LPs, to their investors, and say, hey, we feel bad for the ecosystem and for a few startups. We need to cut out a few millions. والله returns may not happen.
لا شور أكيد. أنا مو
Just
مع.
like كأنه حدا
وصارت هي
إجاك
في الآخر.
وقلت بدك تعمل أنت مشروع بشركتك لأنك you like somebody you're not gonna lose money on it and you do it وأنت مش لاقي تاكل كشركة. It's the same principle. So the idea today also is to get you to understand the dynamics of what happens within the VC ecosystem. And that's why Walid started بقول لك أنا زيك. Just like you go raise money. If his investors say I don't want to invest in you, he doesn't have a pool of funds to invest anymore.
Sure.
And if he doesn't invest them well, they'll either stop giving the money or they will never
If
invest
I don't
in
return to my investors ما عندي فند تاني. خلصت المصاري.
مزبوط.
بس انا يعني في شغله يعني لو نحكي عن الاردن عشان عن جد برضه نلاقي فايندينجز من الدسكشن، يعني هذه مش بس بدنا نحكي فيها. اليوم اصعب شيء السكند راوند بالاردن نحكي مينلي. هلا في كتير ناس بيعطوا الفيرست راوند والامور طيبه اللي هو ال 100,000 50,000. هلا بتصفي في جاب بين انت تحصل السكند راوند، بعديها اعتقد بتصير الامور اسهل، بصيروا في سيز دي فولو اب ايتش اذر مع اللي بنشوفه اليوم. الستيج هذه بالاردن انا مثلا معي فلنفترض 100,000 بالبنك بحساب الشركه، انا لازم امسك العصاي من النص. فالفي سي مو لازم يتوقع مني اني انا زلمه بس بحط فلوسي تكنولوجي. يعني انا هلا مش ويلنج اني ابني اجمل ويب سايت بهاي المرحله، انا ويلنج اني اخلي الشركه ستدي بتعمل تكنولوجي بس بتبيع. فانا لهيك بتلاقيني بصرف شوي ماركتينج، بصرف شيء يجيب لي
قصدك مش عم ترمي كل فلوسك بالجروث.
يس
You're maintaining your runway.
في كثير ناس
You're balancing
بيستنوا
your runway needs مع
يس
الجروث.
في في سيز تستنى اني اقدم له جوجل، بحكي له انا سوري طب هلا بنيت 6 اشهر احلى ويب سايت وبعد 6 اشهر فيش مصاري، شو استفدت منه؟ وفي كثير بلاتفورمز موجوده بالستور بتجنن رائعه ما عليها 100 داونلودز. فهي بالاخير في رواتب في شيء، فبدها تنمسك العصاي من النص. اوكي انا يعني بالنسبه لي دينار ماركتينج، دينار للتيم، ودينار تكنولوجي، لانه يعني ما بقدر
أنا personally I see it. I think Walid وبعدين I'll ask Nadim to jump in بعد.
أنا بدي أقول إنه venture capital is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Venture capital is hyper growth, hyper scalability to maximize value and then to be able to sell.
Quickly become the next big thing quickly. مذكرين امبارح.
I am guilty of killing majority of my companies because I sit on their board. I'm like, where's the growth? 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 هلكتهم. يعني ما بيقدروا. It's not possible. It does not work on that business model.
بس هذا كمان اتس ورك متى؟ يعني برا الايديا ستيج بياخذ عليها 500,000، ساعتها بجيب تيم تك وبنقعد 3 سنين بهالوايت بورد.
agreeing with you.
يس بحكي لك، فهون لسه الستيج اصعب.
وليد انا I talk
ما
about this sometimes and I talk about investor startup fit. So من قبل ما تقبل الاستثمار you really need to make sure your goals are aligned. So if your investor wants growth in a year وانت you know it needs 3 years, maybe that's not a good investment to go for.
Yes,
although
but
money is oxygen. So
look, the world changes within 24 hours, as we know. Everything can change at any point in time. So if I have a thesis 6 months ago, ما رح تنطبق اليوم necessarily on it. Key is communication, key is board, key is governance. كي انه واحد الانتربرنور يجي يقول لي انت قلت اوكي على البادجت السنويه بس انا ملاقي حالي هلا مزنوق، صار في عندي 1 2 3 الحالات،
هالقد عندي
خلينا
مشكلة.
نرجع نطلع على الارقام وخلينا نتفاوض وبعدين to come to a place that we agree. This has to happen. في مشكله كبيره عم بتصير عندنا نحن بالاردن يمكن اكثر، انه في انخساف من الستارت ابس. الزلمه ما بده يجي يقول انا غلطان او انا عملت الفاينانشلز مش مزبوطه او انا بحاجه او في عندي مشكله او الكو فاوندر تاعي نصب علي. يعني صعب الواحد يجي يقول انا عندي مشكله ويفتح قلبه للانفستر. هاي بتسبب مشاكل كثيره وما بنقدر نشوف ايش اللي عم بيصير. والعكس تماما، انه الانفستر بضله يعطيه مصاري. انزنقت بدك شوي كمان، اعطيك كمان شوي، اعطيك كمان شوي. صرنا حبيبه مع بعض وزلمه بحبني اوكي وانا عم بعطيه مصاري شو ما بده. بطل افيشنت، بعد سنتين خلصوا المصاري من عندي، مات الزلمه عشان ما عرف كيف يعمل ريفينيو من محل ثاني.
ما هي وليد نقطة بس أتهزك على راسي، كنت نقطة يعني صحيح أنا ما بآمن إنه نطبق دائما الرولز تبعت سيليكون فالي على المنطقة العربية نهائيا، لأنه إحنا مختلفين كليا، إحنا أسواق ناشئة من جميع الاتجاهات. ولكن بالناحية هذه الموضوع العاطفة، يعني أنا بلاقي دائما الستارت اب كومبانيز من أكثر الشغلات اللي بتخربها وجود في عاطفة، إن كان حزن. حتى بحكي للتيم دائما عندي ما يكون عندك عاطفة نهائي، لا حزن ولا فرح ولا كذا، كون آلة فعليا في التعامل. حتى مع الفي سي بدك تكون عبارة عن أرقام، أنت قدامك أرقام تعطي والله 1 2 3 4 صار عندنا جروث معين 1 2 3 4، وهو بنفس الوقت شو الأوفر تبعه. هذه هي الريليشن شيب اللي لازم تكون. فعارف أنا بالآخر في بعض المعايير اللي والله الشخصية إنه والله إعجاب الفي سي بالفاوندرز وكذا، ولكن هذا مش كافي، هذا خداع كتير.
صح،
خداع كتير.
خسرنا مصاري كتير. المهم انه الفاوندر والستارت اب بفهم مصلحته أكثر من الفي سي.
yes, they have to stand up for it.
You cannot expect the VC to understand your business better than you. You're doing it day and night. You're on the front lines. You're the one that's looking at the P&L. أنا قاعد عم بطلع على مليون شركة وبستثمر. It's different. أنت لما تيجي تقولي I have a red flag يا جماعة، أنا مجبور أسمع لك. ما بقدر أجي أقول لك غصب عنك بدك تعمل growth. طب ما في مصاري، من وين بدي أجيب growth؟
So open and frequent communication always inspires trust. تعرف شو المشكلة بصير surprise. So Walid sat with you. There's a plan.
Guys,
9 months later, he discovers that things were crashing 5 months ago.
يعني I must tell
That's
you,
a disaster.
we just lost $13 million in a company that we invested in Egypt.
30?
13, just from us.
Wow.
The founders never once came up to us and say يا جماعة نحن عندنا مشاكل.
You would have helped him بجوز.
بيجوا بيقولوا لنا كل شيء تمام، كل شيء تمام، كل شيء
Was it,
تمام، كل شيء
tech
بدنا
deviation?
نكبر وبدنا نسوي. It wasn't actually. It was كل ما تعمل التك دي دي وكل ما تعمل كوميرشال دي دي وتعمل ليجل دي دي بالآخر، وما بلومهم necessarily، بس قد ما صار في عندهم ضغوطات نفسية وعندهم اشياء لازم يسووها، راحوا اخذوا قروض من البنك بحسابهم الخاص على حالهم، انزنقوا، التايمينج واز اوف، ما اجاهم مصاري، جماعه تركوا البلد وخلوا سابوا البزنس. يعني لو حدا بيجي بيقول انا مصاب، انا عندي مشكله، انا مديون، تعالوا جربوا حلوا معاي.
To help them. You've invested in
Aren't
them.
you on the board, on the cap table? ما فيهم ياخذوا shareholder loan and put it in the business. There's
لا.
governance. No?
It happened at the 11th hour when it was too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
المشكلة أنا عم بقول أول ما تفكر في إشي، this relationship needs to be a marriage that works together for the long term. مش أنا ضدك وأنا خايف منك وأنا ما بدي وإنه بتزعل مني إذا ما أعطيتني مصاري. This is the problem that we have. Unfortunately, I'm a Jordanian and I love Jordan and I've invested in Jordan, but we have a problem of entitlement. لما تعطي واحد مصاري بيجي بيقول لك ما أنت أعطيتني مصاري، لازم تتبناني، لازم ترجع تعطيني مصاري كمان مرة، ليش زعلان مني؟ It's not like that. زي ما أنت قلت, it's a business transaction at the end of the day. Prove to me you can go and raise funds from somebody else and you have a viable business, you will succeed. بس the idea إنه لا أنت مشكلة ليش الكمباني failed is أنت ما أعطيتني مصاري لثالث مرة. لا.
وليد اسمح لي, I'll ask Nadim to give his feedback and then I'll open it to the audience.
يعني
Except a few people.
I like what I'm hearing, and it is in sync with the value proposition that comes from tech audit or technical due diligence, because we try to قد ما فينا converge ونقرب يعني transparency between the asset and the investor من ناحية like the KPIs, the metric, what's out there. It just so happens that technically it's less emotional, although everything's emotional, yeah. But technically, these are the risks. You need to mitigate them. These are the gaps. You need to close them. These are the active subs. This is what you need to do. And based on my experience, usually the startups are very receptive, and يعني everybody loves their feedback. And I like that you like feedback. لأنه يعني أنا one thing I hate is silent treatment. يعني you don't know anything, and this is, I think it's a form of abuse when you give somebody silent treatment. They tell me yes, no, why, and they owe you feedback. But what I saw in ICT MENA is very interesting. These investor lounge. I saw very candid conversation. The investors are approachable and available. The startups are there. I saw good dialogue. One more observation on what you're saying. Grass is not greener on the other side. يعني in our region, طيب, okay, but look at the Airbnb story. مثلا. These guys like pitched. And look what they pitched more than 100 times, and nobody gave them the time of day. And look where they are today. And so, I believe in معمودية النار. يعني you have to go through a lot of معمودية النار.
شو هذا معمودية؟
Be baptized by fire.
Yeah. So
We had a
you have to
question.
go through this as a VC and to see if you're a survivor, and maybe then you'll get money and you're lean enough to do your hockey stick.
So I will add to this, and then I'm going to see if anybody has a question.
We
or
had a
comment.
question with the gentleman there.
Who?
كان في واحد. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
بصوت عالي. ما في ميكروفون.
تمام. هو في حل متاح جدا في اسواق ثانيه، ان في يعني الحل بتاع ان الانفسترز بيدوروا او عدد معين من الانفسترز عندهم كريتيريا مختلفه، والانتربرينورز عند ليفل معين اوف ريدينس. ففي كمثال gust.com. It's an assessment tool. الانتربرينور بيخش يكتب ان انا الديل ديتيلز بتاعتي وبيجي له
So I'll give you another 20 seconds to do the commercial. كمل.
No, I'm not doing a commercial. I don't work for them. I built like a totally different tool for that.
Okay.
But this is a very, very credible and a straightforward response to that. Is that the entrepreneur has a clarity, they understand where they are at and who would be interested in them at this stage.
Okay.
And either like investors can get in and say, we would be interested once they reach that phase or not. And the same thing for investors, they will be able to recruit their pipeline through a transparent tool where they can see exactly where startups at. So just translating the language and having that
what is the name of
transparently
that
available.
platform again? What's the name of the platform again?
Gust.com is the most
Gust.
popular. It's based in the US and it's founded by someone who's very active in the space.
I will answer you. We're getting there. We're a budding, nascent ecosystem that just got started, even if we're just a decade old or less. We don't have enough funds that are doing all stages. We don't have enough funds that are doing all sectors. Today, if you're a hardware startup, you're going to be very difficult to find money. If you're doing deep tech, it's still very hard to get money in the region. And there's not enough entrepreneurs. So once you have the supply and demand that is enough, that you can build a GUS that says, oh, wallahi, and I need this kind of investor for this kind of money in this kind of sector, then it makes sense. We're not there yet. As we get international funds coming into the region, I think we're going to open up the playing field a little bit more. But I think that's a great point.
Go ahead, please. There's someone there. If you can, the mic will come your way.
Yeah, be loud.
The mic is coming anyway.
Be loud so that we can save time.
I actually disagree with you on the last point. We have a lot of fund, a lot of money, a lackness of understanding of financial readiness and the kind of instruments that fit you as a startup.
So just let me say one statistic. If you take a look at the GDP of the region with the amount of funding, and if you take a look at Israel, or if you take a look at US, you see that the funding gap here is humongous. So we don't have enough funds. There's not enough money to go around. I wish I could go and I could give my startups Series A, Series B, and Series C and keep them going. But there's not enough funds.
Actually, I haven't spoken to so many people providing different types of funding, not venture capital specifically. There are different levels. There is a lack of understanding of what type of instrument is the right instrument for you at this specific stage. There is a lack of understanding of people going a lot to VCs and not understanding that they might be
I totally agree with you.
actually great for microfinance institutions or different types of investors.
We need both. We need the education and we need the readiness. But please don't stop the funding from coming because we need it.
No, we still need the funding, but we also need to work on people's
Absolutely.
preparedness and readiness
Absolutely.
to access finance.
Absolutely.
There's a question here, and then we'll go to you.
It's okay, I can be loud, very loud.
الله يعين الله يعين. واضح واضح.
Tone it down. So as I said, I work with the Ministry of Entrepreneurship in Palestine. First, for the VCs, did you get Palestinian startups approaching you for investment? And the second part of that is that right now we're working on the first Startup Act in Palestine. So if you have to pick something that will make investing in Palestine more attractive to you, what that will be, as in terms of incentives?
Good question. Number one answer is yes. I'm also Palestinian, and we have an investor in us that is Palestinian. So I'm incentivized to invest in Palestine. It's okay, and Palestinian founders. So that's number one.
LPs, you mean?
Part of my LPs. Number two, as in Jordan, which is a good thing, it's not a big enough market. You're not going to be able to survive in Palestine. You're not going to be able to survive in Jordan. You need to be able to have information about what's happening in the world, be competitive in emerging markets at least, if not that, to be able to scale. So we need back offices happening in Jordan. We need smart people in Jordan. We need smart people in Palestine. But we need the markets that are actually paying and that are in emerging markets to be where you're going. That makes it much more appealing for us to do it.
Makes sense. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, that should do. So invest in businesses that are scalable, even if they're in Palestine or Jordan, right?
I'll be happier to invest in Jordan and Palestine because I'm incentivized to do so as long as you scale.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Hello. We've been hearing in this conference and lately in general that the cost of capital is more expensive now, the multiples are deflated. What happens when the investor is in the previous batch of investors who went into high valuation and there is a new investor that is doing the accordion for the old investors? And what is the impact on the relation between the founder and his current investor versus the new one?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. Business cycles are boom and bust. They go up and they go down. This is the normal business cycle. You got a lot of VCs and a lot of money that came in when it was going on the boom. They haven't survived the bust, right? That relationship is going to be difficult because they've lost money, they feel bad, how they're going to return money. It's going to be ugly for a while until people go through that cycle once. I'm old enough to have gone through the cycle a few times. So the idea is patience, long-term capital, and to see where the end game is. You can't, be like cryptocurrency. It went down today, it's out, I'm going to sell it, it's done. It doesn't work that way. We are patient investors long-term so that we can live through a boom, a bust, and go through a boom again. If a VC understands that and has the ability to do that, then the conversation won't be as difficult. As the new VCs come in with fresh money, هم اللي حيربحوا. Because today you have a talent pool that is second to none. You have layoffs that are happening in global companies that is second to none, which means we're going to get a lot of talent in this region, which means that's what we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for pipeline, we've been waiting for talent. And now, after COVID and after the crash, all of a sudden, we have very fertile soil. Now all of these people want to start their own companies and they want to do things. I'm super hopeful right now. I'm a fund that can do both early stage and late stage. I'm still in the beginning of my cycle, so I'm very positive about what's happening.
Nadim, do you want to add?
Just to add a bit on what Walid is saying, you're assuming that the second round is an up round. But now a flat round
it's
is
actually
an up
a down
round.
round.
Yeah, so a down round is an up round now. But so you're assuming the new investor is going to come at a higher valuation, but it might be flat. Yeah, but look at the stock market. Look at the capital markets. PayPal is down 80%. And, yeah.
But yes.
Yeah, but private markets are still hush-hush compared to public markets.
It's a difficult lesson. بس نحن كنا نقول يا جماعة valuations خيالية. استنوا شوي. Don't go after valuations that are 200 million. ما رح تزبط معاكم. 6 أشهر بعدين بيرجعوا لنا بيقولوا we had to do a down round.
And some of the most successful startups بالعالم started in a downtime. In a downturn. Google is one of them, for example.
What they learned from 2008 is that companies that were able to cut costs quickly survived and ramped up again. So my advice during this period is to look at free cash flow, hold on a bit on expenditure, like you said. Just make sure you survive, because capital will be cheap again. I think there'll be. I believe in QE infinity, but that's something different. I feel there'll always be easing.
سنة بس خليني to acknowledge that I'm being yelled
Okay.
at.
يلا.
Can we have 3 more minutes? Okay, حطيتك on the spot. There you go. Go ahead.
يعني اعتقد الكونكلوجن كلها عم تحكي عن اهميه الكوميونيكيشن سكيلز، وهي مهمه حتى بالبيرسونال لايف بكل شيء. فكونه يعني انا تزوجت بشهر 7 واخذت انفستمنت في شهر 7 الماضي، يعني الانفستمنت كان اصعب من الزواج والله العظيم.
استنى شوي استنى هلا بتشوف.
early days. فالكوميونيكيشن كثير مهمه. هذا يعني كونكم موجودين هون اتس جود برضه تو سبريد هذه الكلتشر بكل التيم ممبر بالفي سي، اللي هي تخلي ايش العلاقه بين الفاوندر والفي سي هيك بيطلعوا على بعض. للاسف هلا وبنحكي بعض دائما ما بنعمم، في نوع من العلاقه هيك بين الفاوندر والفي سي، وهي سبب منها جزء من الفاوندرز اللي بروح بده اي شيء اي كذا اي هيك. فهاي كثير مهمه، لانه لما تكون في كوميونيكيشن سكيلز ويكون في تشانل منيحه بالحوار، وقتها لما يكون عنده عن جد مشكله او هي ستراجلينج او شي ستراجلينج، راح يجي ويشعر بالامان انه يحكي وكذا تو جيت ذا سبورت. فالكوميونيكيشن اعتقد يعني اتس ذا كي. يعني
احمد ووليد اظن بدي اقول
تمام. حاب بس اختم بشغله مهمه بالنسبه لي من تجربتي خلال 12 سنه الماضيه. لازم نعطي اهميه بعيدا عن يمكن الحرب اللي بتصير بين الانفسترز والستارت ابس، لازم نعطي اهميه للفريش جراجويتس من خلال التدريب، من خلال ارجاع اهميه الوظائف. انا بالنسبه لي انا بني ادم بلاقي انه الوظائف مهمه اكثر من انشاء شركات. لسه كمان انشاء كاريرز، انشاء بوزيشنز، تخصصات ممتازه مهمه تستوعب السوق، وهذا إشي صار في صحوه عليه اليوم جديده. مسؤوليه الستارت اب كومباني برضه كمان لازم يكون جزء منها كتير كبير مرتكز على الانترنشيب. هذا شيء جدا مهم. اتس وين تو وين سوليوشن، ما لازم نتجاوزه. اكيد في الاكسبرتيز مهمين، ولكن لازم اساس يكون في انترنشيب بالشركات عشان تعطي الخبره للشباب الجداد. اي ثينك برضه كمان يعني people is first دائما بالستارت اب كومبانيز، والكلتشر از the foundation. إذا بنحكي على الماركت لازم تفكر فيه جلوبالي، بس انجح في بلدك، انجح في مكانك، انجح في السبوت اللي انت فيها، وهذا إشي كتير ضروري.
I agree. Walid, did you want to add anything?
No, we're a growing ecosystem ورح نعمل أغلاط كثيرة وبدنا كثير أشياء من كل شيء. بدنا internships وبدنا startups وبدنا funding, and we're getting there. And it's the onus is on us as founders and as VCs to really hold the highest bar of excellence as we move forward, so that we have a great ecosystem in the region. نحن لما نطلع عليها، ليش أنا رحت على fund صيني out of all funds in the world? They see the Middle East and Africa as the last landmark on the globe that is going to go through venture capital and is going to build technologies that is needed. It's the last place.
Yes.
So we have an incredible opportunity to do it, but we need to build it right. So we have, نحن كVCs لازم نقول للستارت-ups هيك, هدي شوي, this is what the valuation looks like, دير بالك, do that. Startups as well have to be at excellent governance levels, excellent compliance levels, and build something out of this region that we can all be proud of. We have the opportunity to do it. The world sees it, and we've been waiting.
Well said. We have to conclude now. Thank you so much. So thank you, Walid, Nadim, Ahmed بس أحمد تاني لا.
And thank you, yani nobody thank you.
So to summarize, I think communication can do a lot of magic. It is what it is. Sometimes you're going to get a lousy VC to deal with. You have to accept it. Sometimes you're going to get a nasty rejection email that's insulting. You know what? You move on. Mental toughness is key. That's just my quick take on it.
بدي اعمل لك دعايه. نضال عنده احسن سبيتشز على اللينكد ان انليش، عن جد اللي ما بيحضرها يعني بروح عليه كثير. هذه لازم
بلم مصاري. Thank you so much everyone. أظن الغدا هلا صح؟